Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Student Affairs Shares. Super excited for our guest today, as we recently had a fireside chat in which she was featured. So I'm going to turn it over to our guest to let her introduce herself.
Hi, hello everyone. I'm Wendy Shoemaker, and I'm the program director of the University Career Center here at the University of Kansas.
All right, thank you so much, Wendy, for joining us. Could you share a little bit about the University Career Center, maybe your mission, some key services that you all offer, and maybe some resources as well?
Happy to. So, the University Career Center has existed for about 20 years now, and we are a comprehensive career center. And what that means is that we offer a full range of career services to KU students in all, ranges, first year through graduate and beyond, and including alumni, by the way. And so, career planning, career exploration, all the way through executing a job search and all the points in between. So, our mission really is to support and challenge students at all stages of their academic and career planning journey. And so, because we know that students, come in confident sometimes and they change their mind. And so we're there for them when that happens. We also curate quite a few career opportunities, engagement through our resources. One resource that I'll mention is Handshake. It's brand new to us as of this past summer in 25. And it's a very popular resource to showcase jobs and internships for KU students. And then we work with a lot of academic units, faculty to integrate career readiness materials, planning materials into the curriculum. So it can be part of the ecosystem, if you will, for students. And then obviously we work with a lot of employers to bring them onto campus. We bring about 1,500 employers, all said and done, to campus through a series of about 18 different events throughout the academic year to help students connect with those opportunities that they're talking about.
Thank you so much. Sounds like the University Career Center has a lot to offer. And so now we're going to switch gears and jump into some of our Q&A questions that our parents and families, I'm sure, would love to know your insight on. So you mentioned career readiness. And so how do you define career readiness? And then how does the University Career Center assist students in achieving that?
Right. Okay. So career readiness is kind of the hot new term, and it's been around for about 5 or so years. And really, we mean it essentially, it's a broad set of skills that students can engage in, but it really means, being ready for the career success after they graduate. But, we know that that is a journey that starts as soon as they get here at KU. And so we define it in four different ways or outcomes for success for KU students. And one is career direction. Do they have a sense of their career plans? Do they feel confident about that? Career skills. Can they describe and document their skills to somebody else, an employer in this case? Are they engaging in experiences that help them confirm, pardon me, their career plans, through uh, internships, but it could also be job shadowing, it could be informational interviewing that helps them develop their confidence. And then finally, do they have meaningful connections or relationships within their preferred areas of career outcomes? Are they building their network, if you will? We think those four things are really elemental for students to engage in, and they can start as early as their first year with working on those things. And it's a slow trickle. They start as a first year student, and they don't have to figure all that out as a first year student in their first year, but they can work on it throughout their KU experience.
Yes, thank you so much. And so, in your experience, what are some early signs that a student is on the right track with their career planning?
Yeah, and we definitely see them because, I will, when I work with first year or, students who are early in their KU experience, a couple of markers that I notice right away, the students, I'm like, okay, they're going to be okay, is they're engaging. They're engaging simply with the resources that are available to them on campus. And there's a ton of them actually. And so they're probably engaging with us in the Career Center. coming in for a checkup, if you will. We have a 30-minute getting started appointment, so they've taken advantage of that. They're asking questions about their resume. Students sometimes are keenly aware that the resume they created, if they created one in high school, is probably not going to be quite what that reflects what they need now. So they're working on updating it to include new experiences that they're gaining while they're a student here at KU. They're engaging with opportunities to, connect with employers or industry professionals. Like I mentioned before, we bring a bunch of industry professionals and employers to campus. And so in a variety of formats, career fairs are an obvious way. We also have mocktails and mingle programming. We have industry nights. We have a program here in the Career Center called Recruiter in Residence, and we bring a bunch of employers, and it's just a 15-minute conversation to talk with them. There's mock interviews, so they're just kind of starting to put their pinky toe into that water of like connecting with somebody, with an industry professional, even though it feels a little scary. They're starting to engage, if you will. So I think those are really good behaviors and indicators that students probably they're starting off on the right foot.
Yes, to that. And so you mentioned a lot about different resources and services that you have. So, what are some services or resources that are offered by the University Career Center that parents and families could encourage their students to use if they are needing support with that career readiness and or planning that you mentioned?
Yes. Okay. So the one that is I'm going to highlight specifically is career advising services. And so I probably should take a step back and just mention very briefly that we have multiple career centers on campus. And so there's dedicated services for business students, engineering, and journalism. But the good news is that we all have the same kind of approach to working with students. We all have the same kind of career advising types, if you will. And so we offer, anything. I mentioned the getting started appointment, but from career planning to job search and internship search, also helping students with networking or fine-tuning their LinkedIn profile, if that's, pertinent, resumes, cover letters, CVs, job, salary negotiation. So we all offer this kind of same suite of career advising services. And so that's absolutely free. The students can meet with us virtually. So if they want to meet with us through their apartment or through their residence hall, or while they're home over, break or, that kind of thing. We also, clearly meet with students in our offices, and we offer 30 and 60-minute appointments. We've really tried hard to make sure it's a flexible service to help students no matter where they're at that point. So that's the most obvious one. And then after that, I think there's a lot of online resources that we are offering to students, and they can use anytime. Skills First is a brand, like I mentioned, a handshake earlier. Skills First is also a relatively new tool. We adopted it in the summer of 2025. And it's an AI-based tool to provide feedback to students on their resumes, their cover letters, and practice interviewing and elevator pitches. And so they can use that anytime. They can upload their resume, get feedback on that. They can also send it on for human review. So if they wanted to get another set of eyes on it, literally, from a career advisor, they can also do that to layer on that feedback. Since we have offered it, it's been a very popular tool, and it's almost becoming like students are sharing it with each other, which we know is very comforting to us because we know that students are appreciating that resource. Other things, we have other resources such as an Iris booth, which is in the Summerfield Hall. And that is obviously something within Summerfield, but we know that students are concerned and want professional headshots. And so we purchased the Iris booth, which is a self-directed or self-guided photo booth. And it's normally housed within our offices in the University Career Center, which is 206 Summerfield Hall. When it's not at a career fair, we bring it to the career fairs because students are engaging there too. But then, they can, it takes, I don't know, maybe 5 or 7 minutes, give or take. It's direct. It shows them how to pose for the pictures. They get the download almost immediately, and they can edit that. There's some software that comes with that. So if they want to, like remove a blemish or whiten their teeth or something like that, they can do that. It takes lovely photos, I must say. My own LinkedIn photo is an Iris Booth photo, and and I think if an additional resource to that would be the FOG photo closet. FOG stands for it's PHOG, so Professional House of Garments. That's what it means. And we house kind of a closet of donated professional clothing, suiting, kind of separates, that kind of thing. And it's really there to help students. On their first day on the job, or they've got an interview coming up, or they want to go to a career fair and they're just not really feeling confident about what's in their closet. So they can come by and pick up anything. They can pick up to 5 items of clothing per year, and it's absolutely free. They don't have to bring it back. Many students feel like they have to pay for it or feel like they have to bring it back. I'm like, no, it's for you. And we do clothing drives throughout the academic year. Actually, I should say the calendar year. The chancellor and some of our senior leadership have donated the suiting and clothing and things like that, and it's a great resource. So those two things should help students, put their best foot forward in terms of interacting with industry professionals.
Thank you, Wendy. And that is such a phenomenal resource to have because we know financially, when you're in college, the financial part of being able to purchase those professional garments
Yeah.
can sometimes be a barrier. So to know that they can come and get those items for free at the University Career Center is really exciting. And so I hope parents encourage their students to take more advantage of that. What's one thing that you would maybe give our parents and families insight on about understanding the career development process, right? So thinking about those parents that might feel like, my Jayhawk, it was this way when I was in college, and why aren't they doing this, this, and this? So what advice would you give to our parents and families about really understanding the career development process in this particular day and age, right, with our Gen Z folks?
Yeah, no, I love this question because there's a lot of pressure on making the right decision on students, and that's changed. I think from the time when I was in college, there's obviously there was, impact, and we understood the impact of choices about major and engagement in school, but it's really become kind of a rather intense process, and we put a lot of pressure on students to make the perfect choice. Um, and I think it's just out there in the ether. There's a lot of importance on ROI, which is very certainly understandable. But I think, and sometimes that gets in the way of really engaging because students can kind of get stuck if thinking that there's some perfect choice, and when in reality there's like the next choice. And so, career planning, in my view and like, my experience, is a slow trickle, and it starts early, and it's just like, little drip, 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 every semester, every time they can. And it's really encouraging students to engage in this process frequently and often, and really embrace this, because this is, when you think about it, it's kind of a normal part of life to kind of figure out what you're about, and what you're going to do when you're going to, how do you want to make a living. And so that's normal. And I think almost everyone will have some moment in their life where they have to kind of change their mind, or go a different way, or change, you know, g- uh, change, go into another field, or the idea that they came in didn't work out. So this is just helping students understand this is normal. This is a normal part of, there is no perfect. I think students, in my experience, of doing this for 20 plus years, they are really good at fooling each other, in terms of thinking like, like I'm the only one who has this problem. I'm the only one who's not feeling confident. All my peers feel like they sound like they have it all together and figured out, and I'm the only one. And when in reality, that's not really the case, because we know, because we're seeing them in the career center. And so, helping students just engage and don't retreat from the idea. So starting with some small and simple behaviors, and I think assessing kind of where they are. Do they feel confident about their career choices? And is their confidence based on a real conversation with someone in the industry or an experience? I think those are credible, pieces of information as opposed to just some idea that they thought about, like, or they saw it in a movie or they saw it on TV, which is, very common sources of career information or career choices, career ideas, I should say. Are they updating their resume? When was the last time they looked at their resume? Are they engaging? Do they know who's in their network? you know, and are they aware of the experiential learning opportunities that are available to them? There's a ton. And if not, then I would suggest that they make an appointment with the Career Center and really we'll walk them through, show them the resources. We can meet with them as often as they need us to. There are some students I meet with weekly, to keep them on track. I'm their coach, and see where are you right now. And there's many students who I meet with once are like, okay, I have an sense, I'm away to go. And, I won't see them for another year or two. So all those are fine.
Yes. And I love what you said about, you know, whatever the student might be experiencing in their particular process is normal. So, it's not like, oh, it's just me. It might be their peers or somebody they know on campus that might be experiencing the same thing. And so I love what you said about parents just normalizing that it is a process and, it's your process. And as long as they lean into some of the resources that you mentioned, it could help them in that process. So speaking of that, what guidance would you offer to parents to give to their student if they might be struggling to find that internship or that employment that you're talking about, or those experiences that and opportunities that they might want?
Yeah, great question because we get that a lot actually because for the students who are coming in to use our services and like I've tried everything, I've done everything, I sent out one application, I didn't hear back, so that's kind of a clue about where I'm going next is not always but frequently students will apply for one or two opportunities, whether it's an internship or job opportunity. And it's really they need to apply for more than one that actually. But it's not apply for everything that comes their way or it's like applying for things that are fitting within their job search targets, if you will. And so we can help clarify that. Is other things that I've seen that that help kind of hold students back a little bit is like maybe their resume is not fitting the industry standards of their job search targets. I mean, resumes take on different looks and feels and lengths and content depending on the industry target. So maybe they need help with kind of fine tuning and customizing their resume or their cover letter to their industry choice. Do they have enough people within their network who are helping them, who are kind of giving that inside track of information, like this is how it really works, or maybe they're applying at the wrong time. There's seasonality to some professions, maybe that, the opportunities are really coming available in October and they're looking in April and there's simply just not enough, to apply. So those are some pieces of information I would share with students to help them troubleshoot that job search a little bit more.
Yes, love the troubleshooting. So speaking of troubleshooting, what do you all offer for students who might be unsure of their career path or their major? So thinking about some of our students who are exploratory, right? And they're feeling that pressure from their parents to say you need to make a decision about what you want your career path to be. And so how does the University Career Center engage and work with those students who might be a little unsure?
Right. Yeah, we have a variety of resources, some of which they can use on their own and their own free time, and the others they will want to use with a career advisor. So the Pathway U is one of those they can either way, they can use it on their own, but it's a career assessment. And it's won a National Science Foundation Award a couple years back around helping students find career matches based on their own information that they provide, interests and personality and things like that. And so a very well used resource for that very reason. It's also mapped onto KU majors. And so it's a great tool, especially for students who are like in between, not quite sure if I'm liking what I'm studying here and I need to choose into something else or pivot into something else. We also have the strong interest inventory, and I should rephrase that. It's a strong 244 now, and I would call it the Cadillac of career assessments, and it's a tool available for KU students that is only available through working with a career advisor. And it's pretty comprehensive and pretty significant. It'll walk them through kind of an approach, and it helps them understand kind of what their interests and how they align with commonly chosen career paths for their, work personality. Um, and then after that, we have a lot of hands-on tools that we use with students that are kind of kinesthetic in nature. I think many students, I'm including myself in this, are just like to learn by doing. And so we have card sort activities or little workshops, worksheets they can fill out in our session to kind of get them engaged and reflect on their interests, their skills, their values, and how that impacts what they're thinking about in terms of their next steps. And so all that we have two different kinds of career appointments. One is called the 30-minute getting started. It's kind of like what I said, it's like getting started. And after kind of a basic review of their career technology, we'll make sure that their handshake is set up and the ways that reflect their career interests. And then after that, we'll talk with them. It's like, what do you hear? What are you studying? And what do you like? And what are your career plans? And we'll start to kind of draw out an initial engagement plan for them. It's only half an hour, and it's just meant to kind of help them find career services, to be honest, and get them started with the career technology and invite them back so that they can keep on engaging. And then after that, we have a 60-minute career planning, and that's the deeper dive where we're really going to roll up our sleeves and connect with the student and really get a sense of what's going on and likely recommend additional visits based on what we talk about.
Thank you. You mentioned next steps. So we know that, students come to the University Career Center or any of the other career centers that you all might refer them to. And so for maybe some of our Jayhawks who might be thinking about graduate or professional school, what do you recommend as far as engaging with the University Career Center? Do you all have those conversations about students who it's their senior year, junior year, and they're thinking about going to graduate or professional school?
Yeah, we have an appointment type called graduate school information, and it'll we can talk with students about their choices, what they're thinking about. We can help them do research on graduate programs. It's kind of a wide-ranging appointment type, because it can be a little bit of career exploration too. Because in my experience, sometimes students, especially when they perceive that the economy is not strong for them, they will think about graduate and professional school as like, well, I don't really feel great about this job search. I'm just going to go to graduate school. And so I think my advice for students there is to really think that through, because it may be a great next step, or it may not be a great step, based on, because I think, sometimes you know, going to graduate school could help them clarify their career plans and enhance their job prospects, but with the right choice, and as long as it's fitting for them and it's the right time. Sometimes, it's better to be out and working for a couple of years and then go into graduate school when they have a more clear idea of what it is that they want to get out of that experience. But I would say that it's not an ideal thing to consider if it's a substitute for a job search. Like I'm just really not clear, so I'm going to put this off and decide after I graduate. That's not a great approach, in my opinion. And let me put a plug in for another service on campus that is very similar, and that's the Writing Center or the Wingspan, and they will review personal essays or graduate school essays. And that is a really great resource when students are getting ready to apply, and they're going to need some help with that because that's its own logic of writing that. So.
And this is a great segue. So let's say the student graduates, they are now KU alum.
Mhm.
Do our alum still have access to the resources that are provided by the University Career Center? And if so, how long will they have access to that once they have transitioned from being an actual student to being an alum of the of KU?
Yes. Okay. So the first 6 months after students graduate, we treat them like a student, and we get to do that because basically their KU credentials, online credentials, still work. And so, any resource service is available to them as often and as frequently as they like. After that, we consider them alum, and they have access to career services through the Career Center as well as the other services. I've confirmed this with other services for the rest of their life, actually. We're not going to turn any of them away. We do recommend that we'll say we give them at least one visit per year, so it is absolutely free of charge. We don't really charge for successive visits, but we do encourage alums to engage and the online resources after that. But we will continue to meet with them as long as, it makes sense for them and for us too. Our kind of primary resources are for currently enrolled KU students, but if a KU alum needs more than one visit, we'll visit with them. That's absolutely no problem. So, and to access our services, all they need to do is call our phone, our main phone, which is 784-3624. And what will happen after that is we'll send them an online form. We'll ask them, what it is that they're wanting to visit with us, and we'll ask them for some scheduling blocks, and then we'll schedule something for them, get it started. So,
Thank you so much, Wendy. It sounds like the University Career Center has a lot to offer our Jayhawks. And so I hope that our parents and families found all of the information that you provided very valuable. I used to work in the Career Center, so I know how much that space offers to our community. And so before we close, are there any upcoming events that you would like to share with our parents and families?
most definitely. We have a couple mocktails and mingles coming up, and I'll apologize if I don't have the right dates, but I know one is for public service and one is for nonprofit. And that's an opportunity to highlight that particular event. It's a really fun event where we have it in the Jayhawk Welcome Center. And we invite industry professionals, alumni, campus professionals to network with KU students. In the first half an hour is a practice networking session. So we help students kind of learn the ropes of, working a room, if you will, and shaking hands and introducing themselves and how to join an existing conversation, how to leave an existing conversation, just the mechanics of that. And then on the 21st of April, we have what is called a just-in-time career fair. And it's kind of like what it sounds like, it's just in time. It's targeted mainly to graduating seniors who are kind of realizing, wow, I don't really have something in hand, and I should probably engage with a few more industry professionals. And so we invite industry professionals to represent their career opportunities in this career fair. And it's, they have to have a position posted within Handshake, our system. And so it's a really nice networking and career fair opportunity. And we're also going to have career advisors there to give quick resume reviews, some LinkedIn checkups. We'll have the Iris photo booth that I mentioned earlier. And so just kind of a last stop, before students perhaps graduate to kind of connect with some industry professionals and get some kind of a one-stop prep shop, if you will, for some of the other things that go into a job search.
Thank you so much for that, Wendy. And lastly, could you provide your website?
Yes. Okay. Our website is career.ku.edu.
All right. Well, Wendy, thank you so much for giving some of your time today. All of this information was really good. And I hope you have a great day.
My pleasure. And thank you for inviting me to this. This is really fun.
All right. You're very welcome. Have a great day.
You do the same.